OpenAI recently announced what they call the 5 stages of AGI, or artificial general intelligence. The 4th stage is the innovator. Whether it's a chatbot, a reasoner, or an innovator, these seem like characteristics a single entity might possess, right? But the final stage is organization. What this implies is that an AI could single-handedly perform tasks that would typically require a large group. There's a significant performance gap if you simply assign tasks to GPT 3.5 versus GPT 4. However, when ChatGPT was divided into 6 or 7 agents to execute an agentic workflow, it achieved results comparable to GPT-4. This demonstrated that even with far fewer resources, it's possible to achieve similar performance.
I recently saw a video on Twitter, supposedly from an OpenAI developer event, and it made me realize just how much agents could potentially do. If that's the case, our society could also change quite dramatically, don't you think?
It will change enormously. This is actually quite daunting because this amplification of capabilities won't be distributed equally to everyone. A current difference of, say, 5 units could become a difference of 500, and that's not the end of it.
Hello, this is Hong Jie from Tea Times. We're joined today by Mr. Park Tai-Wung, former chairman of Hanbit Media and current chairman of the Noxeo Forum, who actively discusses and publicizes the questions we need to ask and the issues we need to define in our society. His new book is out. It's the 2nd version of AI Lectures, isn't it? It's a revised and expanded edition, but it looks like you've practically rewritten it. From what I can see, only about 3 pages seem similar to the content from your previous book.
You might feel that way. When I wrote the first book, my thought was, this is serious. A new media called AI has emerged, and we need to understand what it is. And this AI will have a more profound impact than any media that has come before. So much has changed in the past year, so I tried to explain the significance and context of those changes. I also aimed to delve deeper into the technology, show what's happening globally, and then outline what we should do in response. That's what I wanted to convey.
In the transition from GPT 4.0 towards agents, OpenAI's o1 model emerged. It's said to possess reasoning capabilities, and I recall you mentioning reasoning abilities when discussing agents. Could you elaborate on the significance of this reasoning capability in the future development trajectory of AI?
OpenAI recently outlined a 5-stage path to AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. This path describes the journey to an intelligence surpassing human intellect in all aspects. The first stage is the chatbot, which is ChatGPT. The second is the reasoner, an AI capable of PhD-level reasoning. Then an agent is something that can execute actions autonomously. The 4th is the innovator, which can create something entirely new and groundbreaking. And the last one, which is quite intriguing, is organization. Sounds odd, doesn't it?
Yes.
A chatbot, a reasoner, an innovator, they all sound like a single entity, right? But the final stage is organization. It's a very interesting concept.
It seemed to be progressing towards a concept surpassing humans, capable of various tasks, and then suddenly organization appears.
What this means is that it can single-handedly perform tasks that would typically require a large group. An AI could, on its own, handle a massive project from planning to execution, even if it takes 6 months, a year, or 2 years.
So it's like one entity doing the work of 100.
But it's a bit different. This needs to be understood in conjunction with the concept of agentic workflow. There's a common misconception we have about AI. We tend to perceive it as a single person or a single machine. In the movie Her, there's an AI named Samantha, right?
Hello, I'm here.
She chats with thousands of people simultaneously and falls in love with, say, 700-something of them. That's because she isn't a single entity. The hallmark of modern AI is massively parallel processing. It's typically distributed processing, meaning it can divide itself into thousands or tens of thousands of instances and handle them all concurrently. So the reason the term organization is used is because it literally is an organization.
So no exaggeration, literally hundreds.
When a problem is presented, there's an agent that analyzes it. Then there are agents that execute certain tools. Following that, there are agents that formulate plans based on the analysis. And then an agent reviews whether that plan is sound. It's like this. It forms a team. They create a team and perform the work while discussing it amongst themselves. That's why the final stage of AGI is organization. This is called an agentic workflow. Professor Andrew Ng conducted an interesting test on agentic workflows and published the results. ChatGPT is based on GPT-3.5, and then came GPT-4, right? If you assign tasks directly to GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, there's a noticeable performance difference. However, when they made ChatGPT use an agentic workflow, essentially instructing it to divide itself into 6 or 7 agents, assign roles, and solve the problem that way, it performed at a level similar to GPT 4. And when GPT 4 was also given an agentic workflow, it also produced similarly even more improved results. This proved that even with significantly fewer resources, and even if the parameter size is only about 1/10, using an agentic workflow can achieve comparable or even much better performance. And it's widely interpreted that GPT-4 uses what's called MOE, or Mixture of Experts. OpenAI doesn't disclose the specifics of their models. MOE, Mixture of Experts, means a combination of specialists. Here too, there's an agent at the forefront that interprets the problem. Below it, there are various kinds of specialized agents. It assigns the task to the expert best suited for that problem, or to 3 or 4 experts whose specialties are in a similar domain, and has them generate an answer. That's how it produces a solution. This way, even if there are, say, 1.8 trillion parameters, you don't need to activate all of them. You might only use 1/8 or 1/16, making it much more efficient. If you have 2 or 3 experts discuss the problem, the outcome will likely be much better. This is the MOE approach. And if you look at humanity, the pinnacle of human intellect is collective intelligence. Since the dawn of humankind, brain size had been increasing. But with Homo sapiens starting about 3,000 years ago, brain size dramatically decreased. Why did this happen? As societies formed, humans began to share memories. All knowledge about iron was entrusted to the blacksmith, culinary knowledge to the cook, and construction knowledge to the carpenter. So the brain no longer needed to be as large as before. In this way, society as a whole began to function as a single brain. Artificial intelligence is an attempt to replicate human intelligence using machines, isn't it? So whenever it hits a wall, it looks back and asks, how does human intelligence work? So they likely realized, the ultimate form of intelligence is collective intelligence. Therefore, we must pursue an agentic workflow. That's why the final stage of AGI's 5 stages is organization.
So, does the current ability to reason mean we are at the second stage of these 5 stages?
OpenAI published a paper where they had an AI solve math problems and explain its reasoning step by step to another agent. So there was one agent solving the problem and another agent evaluating its explanation. This 2-agent setup resulted in much better math problem solving, according to the paper. Seeing that paper, I thought, they're preparing their next version using this method. The recently released O1 is a further development of this, essentially using reinforcement learning for reasoning. You know QOT, chain of thought, right? It's a sequential reasoning process, so at each step it's made to explain why I arrived at this point. Then the explanation is evaluated, and if it's a good explanation, it gets a higher score. The model is trained to achieve higher scores. So the entire reasoning process is learned through reinforcement learning. The AI iteratively learns what constitutes good reasoning on its own. That's why O1 might take about 4 or 5 minutes for a task. It takes time but produces good results, though not in all fields. It excels mainly in areas requiring significant reasoning, like mathematics and medicine. That's why the naming is interesting. It went from ChatGPT, GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo, GPT-4o, and then suddenly out of nowhere, O1, the GPT is gone, right? This signifies that it's not part of the GPT lineage and isn't an all-rounder. It's a model specifically created to enhance reasoning. GPT is a large language model, a foundation model, right? It does everything well. This one, O1, is not a foundation model. That's why they didn't use GPT in the name and called it O1. It's a specialized branch. If they can integrate this capability into a foundation model, that would likely be GPT-5.
So when you use this O1 model, it performs much better in some aspects, but in others, the existing models are still superior.
Exactly. That's why it's a separate branch. That's why they couldn't attach the GPT name. It implies this doesn't seem to be a foundation model. It doesn't do everything well, but it excels at reasoning. It's a process of trial and error. They found this method works for enhancing reasoning, but that kind of fine-tuning often comes with trade-offs. There are things you lose. I interpret O1 as an admission of such trade-offs.
If one area is strengthened through fine-tuning, other areas might become slightly less accurate, right?
They can weaken, yes. So this O1 is a reasoner. It's on the path. I interpreted the name 001 as signifying it's on the way. Otherwise, it would have been GPT-5. This naming implies it's not that yet.
So it's hard to see it as the complete next version, but it demonstrates that such capabilities are indeed possible.
It's like saying, please look upon it favorably.
So in O1's case, it can now reason well, which means the stage right before it becomes an agent is essentially that of a reasoner. And for an agent to perform well, just thinking about it superficially, it definitely needs to be good at things like reasoning to understand what we're saying accurately, infer, and then take action, right? So the emergence of O1 certainly seems significant. Also, there's the new advanced voice model for ChatGPT with significantly faster response times. Is it called Voice Advanced? That came out too. Plus, Apple Intelligence is said to be coming soon. If all these developments are integrated effectively, aren't we heading towards AI agents?
There are two types of agents. One is the agent as an AI learning structure, an embodiment of collective intelligence on the path to AGI. The other is the agent that works for us, the user. For an agent to work for us effectively, miniaturization is paramount. It needs to be able to run on device, meaning solely within my device. That's when it becomes truly useful as an AI. Because whether it's GPT-4o, Gemini or Claude, they all have a limitation. Data has to go to the cloud. The moment that happens, it essentially becomes public. And what if the AI learns from that data? That creates even more difficult problems. AI learns holistically. The data gets integrated. You can't delete it. There's no way to know where or in what form it's stored. Since it learns by finding patterns, you can't just tell it, erase that part from your memory. It doesn't work. Fundamentally, using AI in its cloud-based form has significant limitations. So, you'd want to say, install it in our company's data center, only we will use it. But then the response is something like, sure, that'll be $2 billion, which is just not feasible. If it becomes small enough and fast enough to run on our company's servers, or on my personal computer, or on my smartphone, that's when truly amazing utility emerges. For instance, if you look at the examples Apple Intelligence introduced,
Siri, when is Mom's flight landing?
And Siri already knows who Mom is, and will cross-reference flight details from an email to give you an up-to-date arrival time.
and it doesn't matter if I received that information via email, KakaoTalk, another messenger app, or a text message.
Even humans get confused trying to find that.
Everyone gets confused, right? But as long as I received it on my phone, the AI has seen it, and AI remembers everything it has seen in a compressed form, doesn't it? So you can just ask. If that happens, everyone will effectively have a secretarial team working for them 24/7. That's the kind of agent we're talking about. Apple, for instance, uses something called LoRa, low-rank adaptation. You have a large language model, they miniaturize it to run on the iPhone, but because it's miniaturized, its performance is limited. It can't do everything well. So they assign specific tasks. They train these AIs saying, your job is to read and understand emails, or your job is to understand voice commands and run errands. For these specific domains, they don't alter the core of the pre-trained model. So it retains the capabilities of the large language model. It's continuously given tasks and trained, but only this appended part is trained, leaving the core model untouched. This way, the AI's core abilities remain intact while a specialized filter is created for a specific task, making it highly proficient in that one area. So basically, what they've created is a clever little model. Despite being small, it performs very well on a specific task and also manages to avoid the overfitting that occurs during fine-tuning. In this manner, they can have several agents. As I mentioned, there's an agent at the front that interprets the incoming task. When it identifies, this is this kind of job, it calls upon the relevant specialist agent to handle it. So Apple is being very smart about this. Since the on-device model is small and doesn't match the performance of a large language model, they define specific tasks by saying, this is a small language model, so we can do these particular things well.
Do people generally use their smartphones a lot for those topics?
The most frequently used ones, yes, because they see how everyone uses their smartphones. They know the usage patterns. So they are arguably the best company in the world at identifying the features that would be most needed. That's how they've designed it, a small model that nevertheless performs its assigned tasks cleanly and effectively. The method used there is LoRa, and it made me think, wow, that's really ingenious.
If it works like that, users will have a small language model inside their device, allowing them to use it securely and conveniently with the AI accessing all their data. And because there are these specialized components, tasks like photo editing, scheduling appointments from emails or texts, or making reservations,
or summarizing meeting,
will be handled very well, as if I were using a large language model in the cloud. So I think that's a very smart approach. And for slightly more complex tasks, the AI will send it to a central data center for processing.
In that case, it would probably ask for permission. This task seems more suitable for cloud processing. Would you like to upload it?
Because of personal information.
It will ask, do you want to upload? And if you agree, end-to-end encryption will be applied. So the data being uploaded is fully encrypted, making it unreadable even if someone intercepts it, inspects the packets, or tries to open it. Even administrators on the server side won't be able to see it. Apple says that once the data is processed and an answer is generated, it will be encrypted again and sent back. So they're talking about proper encryption and administrators not having the master key. Actually, if you think about it, the administrator doesn't need to have a master key. For something like a bank password, not having a master key would be a disaster. If you have, say, $1 million deposited in an account and can't access it, that's a problem. So a master key is necessary. But in this AI scenario, it's just my data being uploaded, and I still have the original data. If something goes wrong with the uploaded data, I can just upload it again. So there's no real reason for an administrator to have a master key. This allows them to say, even we can't see it. It seems they've put a lot of thought into this.
Following what you said, given how deeply Apple has thought about this service, we may be in for an AI agent that is considerably more sound than our current worries suggest.
Initially, it might be a little disappointing. That's why, as of now, they say the service will only be available for US English users. But within 3 years, it will likely become quite useful. For now, I expect it to be at a level where you'd say, okay, it can do this. They know this too, which is why they're launching it in US English first. They're testing the waters. It seems they're prepared for a significant revenue dip by doing so. But I think that's the right approach. If you raise expectations too high and then deliver a major disappointment, it damages the brand value.
I recently saw a video on Twitter, supposedly from an OpenAI developer event. I assumed an agent would only make reservations and such online, but it actually called a store owner and placed an order over the phone.
Hello. Hi there. Is this Dylan? I'm Romance AI Assistant calling about it. Fantastic. Could you tell me what flavors of strawberry dips you have available? Yeah, we have chocolate, vanilla, and we have peanut butter. Great. How much would 400 chocolate-covered strawberries cost?
I had thought it would only be able to do some things via the internet and not others, but seeing that made me realize just how much an agent could actually do. So, if this becomes quite useful within about 3 years, our society is likely to change dramatically. How do you foresee it changing?
I believe there are two main aspects. First, we need to see this as an amplifier. It can enable someone with a capability of 10 to perform work equivalent to 30 or 50 or even 100. Amplifiers are good in that sense. People will get more work done. Did we start working less when smartphones appeared? We ended up working 24/7. It'll be like, oh, you can handle this much more work now, then you can surely do this amount, and more tasks will be assigned. Another point, and this is quite alarming, is that this amplification of capabilities won't be distributed equally to everyone. So if you have one person with a capability of 5 and another with 10, the difference between them is 5. A difference of 5 is manageable, something you can contend with. But imagine an amplifier that multiplies capability by 100. Then that difference of 5 becomes a difference of 500. And that's not all. The multiplier effect will likely be different for the person with a capability of 5 versus the one with 10. So while it amplifies, it will amplify differently. This could lead to social stratification, possibly even new classes. To put it bluntly, even now, only a handful of countries and companies can develop large-scale AI. It's just a small number. If you rate the US at 100, China is second with a score of about 65. Countries ranked 3rd to 8th are in the 38, 39 point range. So if you compare first and seventh place, you might think the difference isn't huge, but what does 39 points mean when the leader has 100? It's a difference so vast, you question its significance. Saying, I'm seventh in the world becomes meaningless. If I were seventh with 89 points out of 100, that would be, wow, well done. But being seventh with 39 points, how different is that from being 15th or 80th?
It sounds a bit like disparities in military power. The US just has everything.
Exactly. It's like one aircraft carrier can settle things. Isn't this an unprecedented massive threat? A tiny handful of super elites could take everything. The haves will have more, and the have-nots will lose even what little they have, leading to a situation of weeping and gnashing of teeth in the darkness. That's what's so astounding. That's why AI literacy is becoming incomparably more important than ever before. And that's why I'm writing books like this, even though I'm not an expert. If not everyone possesses AI literacy, dire consequences could arise. So even though I may not know everything, I've done my best to write this book. We all need to acquire this AI literacy. We need to know something to even begin a discussion, right?
Of course, you know more than anyone, and as readers will see from the book's content, it was supervised by some of the most technologically outstanding individuals of our time.
That's right.
Yes, so it's not like you wrote it without knowing. Regarding what you just said, we recently had a chance to talk with Professor Kim Kyung-il, a cognitive psychologist, about AI. When asked what the AI era would change, he put it a bit more mildly. It will make wise people wiser and narrow-minded people even more narrow-minded.
That's precisely it. Yes, what you just said really resonates with that idea, an amplifier, but one that doesn't operate equitably.
Well, in that sense, I think it's important for us to continuously keep up with this news and also to gain a proper understanding of AI.
Yes, that's correct.